If Padre Pio saw how many Catholics leave Mass today, he would not call it reverence, he would call it spiritual carelessness. The final blessing is given, the priest leaves the altar, and within seconds, reverence collapses. Phones come out, keys appear, conversations begin, and in seconds, many act as though Jesus can now be left behind. The pews empty with the speed of people leaving something ordinary, not the altar of God. But here is the question no Catholic should be able to ignore, because a soul that cannot remain after receiving Christ is already revealing how weak its reverence has become. Be honest in the comments. After Mass, what pulls you away first? Hurry, distraction, fatigue, or habit? That is not harsh. That is the truth your conscience already knows. Padre Pio did not treat the end of Mass as a time to relax, chat, and hurry out. He treated those final moments as sacred. Witnesses remembered his long prayer after Mass, his deep recollection, his refusal to act as though the mystery had ended just because the words had ended. He remained because he knew that after Holy Communion, the soul had not just completed an obligation, it had just received the Lord. And that is exactly what many Catholics say they believe, but no longer live after Mass. They rush out of church and then wonder why their soul feels cold. If this hits your conscience, write just one word in the comments: gratitude. They profess the real presence with their lips, then contradict it with their haste. So before you leave Mass this way again, there are 4 small gestures that can begin correcting your soul. And if you want to take this seriously, do not ignore these 4 gestures. Not magically, not sentimentally, but seriously, reverently, truthfully. And Padre Pio's example makes one thing clear: souls are not formed by hurry before Jesus. They are formed by reverence. Pay attention, because the way you leave Mass may reveal the true condition of your faith. This scene is common, and that is exactly why it is dangerous. The blessing has been given. The Church still carries the final echo of prayer. For one brief moment, silence still remains. Then the noise begins. Shoes scrape the floor. Kneelers lift. Whispered conversations rise in the aisles. Someone checks a message. Another person begins planning the rest of the day before even stepping outside. In less than a minute, the atmosphere changes completely. The place that held the sacrifice of the Mass begins to sound like a hallway, and this is where something deeply important is often lost. Most do not leave Mass with malice, but they do what they have done so many times that they no longer feel how wrong it looks before God. They are not trying to be irreverent. They are simply moving with the current. The blessing has ended. The obligation is fulfilled. Life outside is calling. Family, errands, work, traffic, lunch, notifications, responsibilities. All of it rushes back in. A habit becomes dangerous when it teaches a soul to handle holy things without fear, without gratitude, without trembling. That is why these final moments matter more than most people realize. A person can attend Mass faithfully every week, receive Holy Communion regularly, know the words of the Creed, and still walk out of church with a heart that never learned how to remain before God. And over time, that has consequences. Because if the soul never learns to remain with Christ after receiving Him, it slowly begins to treat the greatest mystery of the Catholic faith as something that can be passed through quickly, not denied, just rushed, not abandoned, just treated too lightly. And that kind of spiritual shallowness is exactly what the saints fought against, first in themselves, and then in the souls entrusted to them. Because the saints understood something modern Catholics often forget. Irreverence does not always begin with denial. It often begins with familiarity, hurry, and the slow loss of holy fear. Padre Pio stands over this question with terrifying clarity. He was not a priest of casual Eucharistic devotion. He was not a man of religious convenience. He was not someone who offered Mass and then mentally moved on the second it ended. The historical testimony surrounding him is consistent in tone. He remained in prayer after Mass for long periods. People noticed it, they remembered it. They were struck by the depth of his recollection. That detail should disturb modern Catholics in the best possible way. It should disturb us because it exposes how easily we have learned to shorten sacred moments. And once sacred moments are shortened enough, the soul begins to forget how to stand still before God. Because Padre Pio's silence after Mass exposes the superficial rhythm that has become normal for many people today. He understood that the soul is often revealed not only by how it receives Christ, but by how it behaves immediately afterward. He knew that the final moments after Mass are not empty minutes. They are testing ground for gratitude, reverence, and love. He remained before God. We rush to the parking lot. He gathered his soul after Mass. We disperse ours in seconds. He treated those final moments as part of the encounter. We often treat them as dead time between Mass and the rest of the day. He behaved as though something happened at the altar that demanded a response. We behave as though thanksgiving can be postponed and reverence can be skipped, and yet the soul is never strengthened by postponing gratitude. It is strengthened when gratitude answers grace immediately, and then we wonder why our faith feels weak. It is not only that the world is loud, it is that many souls have become comfortable rushing away from grace. It is also because we leave sacred silence too quickly. The Church has always known this. That is why Catholic tradition insisted on thanksgiving after communion, not as a decorative extra for especially pious people, not as a burden for the scrupulous, not as a performance, but as the fitting response to a real encounter. Because when the Church teaches souls to remain after communion, she is teaching them not to treat the greatest gift lightly. If Christ has just been received, thanksgiving is not optional in spirit. It is the only fitting response. And Padre Pio lived as though that were true. If God has just come sacramentally to the soul, remaining a moment longer is not impractical. It is proportionate. It is what love does. Love does not rush away from presence. Love lingers. Love answers. Love gives thanks before it leaves. If the Eucharist is truly the body of Christ, then haste immediately afterward should feel at least a little unnatural. And deep down, many Catholics know this already. They feel it, even if they do not name it. That strange emptiness some people carry out of church is sometimes not caused by the Mass lacking grace. It is caused by the heart leaving too fast to receive that grace with reverence. A person can walk out of church having technically fulfilled what was required and still feel unfinished inside. That unfinished feeling is often the soul's quiet protest against spiritual hurry. It is the conscience sensing that the body has already moved on. While the heart knows it should have remained a little longer, it is the heart saying, "Something holy just happened, and I moved on too fast." This is where the interior conflict begins. One part of the soul still knows it should remain. Another part has already started leaving before the body even stands. One voice says, "You did enough. Leave now." Another voice asks, "If the Lord has just come to you, why is your first instinct to leave?" Which one sounds more like your heart after Mass? Tell me in the comments. This is not meant to flatter you. It is meant to wake you up. Because the spiritual life grows stronger, the moment excuses lose their power. And many excuses lose their power the moment a person admits something simple: "I have been leaving too quickly." Think of the most human comparison possible. If you visited someone you deeply loved, received a gift, and left without warmth or gratitude, something would be wrong. Not because a rule was broken, but because love had failed to answer properly. Now bring that truth to the altar. At Mass, you did not attend a mere gathering. You approached the sacrifice of Christ. You stood before the altar. You received the Lord. And if all of that is true, then the first instinct after Mass should not be escape. It should be reverence. Not because the Church demands emotional display, but because the heart should not move away from Christ as though nothing decisive has just happened. That is where the body becomes important. because the body can either cooperate with reverence or weaken it. A hurried body teaches the soul to hurry. A disciplined body teaches the soul to remain. Catholic faith has never treated the body as irrelevant in prayer. The body kneels because kneeling teaches the soul humility. The body bows because bowing teaches the soul reverence. The hand makes the sign of the cross because the body helps keep truth from becoming abstract. The body does not replace devotion, it disciplines it. And once the body learns reverence, the soul often begins to follow with greater steadiness. Padre Pio understood this instinctively because he belonged to the ancient Catholic world of embodied reverence. In that world, gestures were not empty choreography. They were confessions made with the body. A bowed knee confessed presence. Silence confessed gratitude. A deliberate sign of the cross confessed that the soul was not walking away carelessly. A careful genuflection said, "He is here." A lingering silence said, "I know what I have received." A slow sign of the cross said, "I do not wish to leave this mystery carelessly." That is why 4 small gestures can become powerful at the end of Mass. They are small enough to be overlooked by the careless, but they are strong enough to reform a soul that truly wants to love the Eucharist better, not because they guarantee anything automatically, not because they are spiritual techniques, but because they teach the soul how not to hurry past Jesus. The first gesture is this: do not stand up too fast. This may be the hardest one because it directly opposes the modern reflex to move. Everyone else is standing. The aisle is filling. Bags are being gathered. The impulse is immediate. Get up now. But do not get up immediately. Remain where you are. Sit or kneel. Be silent. Do not reach for your phone. Do not rush to conversation. Do not let the movement of others decide the condition of your soul. Stay long enough to become aware again of what just happened. Stay long enough for gratitude to have space to rise. Even a short silence, honestly kept, begins to purify the heart from that restless instinct to leave holy things too quickly. It teaches the soul that not every sacred moment must be followed by immediate movement. Some moments should be honored by remaining, and the moments immediately after Mass are among those moments. They are not empty space. They are sacred aftermath. The second gesture is this: genuflect like the tabernacle is not empty, not rushed, not distracted, not half awake, not while your mind is already in the parking lot. One knee bent deliberately before the Blessed Sacrament. This matters because the body is speaking, the body is confessing. It is saying, "I know who is here. I know this is not a symbol alone. I know I am in the presence of the Lord." When Catholics genuflect carelessly, the soul often becomes careless with them. When Catholics genuflect consciously, the heart is quietly schooled in reverence. A true genuflection slows the body down long enough for the soul to remember, this is not an ordinary room, and this is not an ordinary departure. It reminds the person leaving that the church is not merely a place he attended. It is the place where he encountered the living Christ. The third gesture is this: look once more toward the altar and thank Christ before you go. Just briefly. No need for many words, no need for dramatic emotion. A simple interior prayer is enough. Thank you, Lord. You came to me. I will not leave without thanking you. That short thanksgiving can do more for the soul than people often realize. Why? Because gratitude slows possession. It prevents the heart from treating grace as something consumed and forgotten. It turns departure into remembrance. And over time, that simple act forms a soul that does not want to receive Christ casually and does not want to leave him casually either. It teaches the heart to stay personal with God. Not efficient, not hurried, personal. The fourth gesture is this: stop at the threshold and make the sign of the cross like someone leaving the church, but not leaving Christ. That word matters. Slowly, not as a reflex, not absent-mindedly, slowly, because the doorway is not just an exit, it is a threshold between worship and witness. What happened at the altar is not meant to stay locked inside the building. It is meant to shape the rest of the day. When the sign of the cross is made slowly at that threshold, it becomes something beautiful. A final act of reverence inside the church and a first act of fidelity outside it. It marks the passage from receiving to carrying, from worship inside the church to witness outside it. And that is exactly what these final gestures are meant to do. Keep the soul from dropping at the church door what it has just received at the altar. It says, "I am not leaving Christ behind. I am carrying what I have received." These gestures are small enough to be ignored. Padre Pio would have understood that, and that is why they reveal so much. The saints understood that souls are often lost not through dramatic denials, but through accumulated carelessness. And souls are often strengthened not through constant emotional intensity, but through repeated acts of humble reverence. One of the most forgotten truths in Catholic life is this: small habits decide what kind of soul you are becoming. A soul is rarely ruined all at once. It is usually thinned out by carelessness, and it is often strengthened by small, repeated acts of reverence. A person who always rushes at the end of Mass may not realize what is slowly happening. The change is subtle at first. Reverence weakens by degrees. Gratitude becomes thinner. The mystery remains true, but the soul stops responding to it with full weight. The Eucharist remains doctrinally important, but emotionally and habitually compressed. But a person who learns to remain, genuflect, give thanks, and cross himself, slowly begins to change in ways the world cannot measure. He becomes less scattered, less casual, less spiritually abrupt. He begins to carry Mass into the rest of life instead of leaving it at the church door. And that is when the Eucharist begins to shape more than a Sunday hour. It begins to shape reactions, speech, patience, suffering, and peace. And this is where Padre Pio becomes impossible to ignore. Because Padre Pio does not excuse modern irreverence, he exposes it. His example says, without theatricality and without invented quotations, that a soul who has touched the Eucharistic mystery should not move as though it has touched nothing extraordinary. He does not let us hide behind routine. He does not let us reduce reverence to personality type. He does not allow communion to become something we fit into our day and then immediately outrun. He remains in the memory of the Church as a priest whose recollection after Mass still rebukes hurried consciences, not because he left behind a slogan, but because he left behind an example that still judges the modern instinct to rush. And perhaps that is why his example still wounds and heals at the same time. It wounds because it reveals how casual many Catholics have become. It corrects because it shows exactly where repentance must begin, not with dramatic resolutions, not with emotional self-accusation, but with concrete fidelity, with staying, with kneeling, with thanking, with crossing oneself slowly before stepping back into the world. The next time Mass ends, do not leave like someone escaping something ordinary. The next time you pass the tabernacle, bend the knee like heaven is there. The next time you look at the altar, do not walk out without thanking Christ. The next time you reach the church door, make the sign of the cross like someone who knows he is stepping back into the world, carrying a gift too great to treat lightly. Some people listening already know what their obstacle is. For some, it is hurry. For others, distraction. For others, fatigue. For others, simple forgetfulness. But whatever the obstacle, the solution often begins with the same quiet decision. I will not leave Jesus as though he were ordinary. That decision may sound small, but repeated over months and years, it can reshape the moral and spiritual reflexes of a Catholic soul. Week after week, it begins to shape a different kind of Catholic soul, a more recollected soul, a more grateful soul, a more Eucharistic soul. And over the years, those last moments after Mass start reaching into everything else. They change how a person suffers, how a person waits, how a person fights temptation, how a person speaks, how a person carries peace into ordinary life. Because the one who learns not to rush away from Christ in church often learns not to rush away from grace in daily life either. He learns to remain in prayer longer, to listen more carefully, to suffer with more steadiness, to remember God more easily in the middle of ordinary life. And that is no small thing, because many souls do not lose God through one dramatic fall. They lose him through distraction, thinning reverence, and repeated spiritual haste. That is why the image of the church door deserves one final look. At first, it seemed insignificant. People leaving, footsteps, noise, phones, the day starting again. But now that doorway appears in a different light. One person crosses it absent-mindedly, already consumed by the next task. Another crosses it slowly, having remained in silence, bent the knee, thanked Christ, and signed himself with reverence. From the outside, the difference is almost invisible. From the inside, it is enormous, because one leaves scattered, the other leaves gathered. One leaves as though Mass has ended, the other leaves as though communion is still echoing inside the soul. And that second way of leaving is closer to the spirit of Padre Pio. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is honest, because it treats the Eucharist as something real, and because it refuses to hurry away from what heaven has just given. That is why these final moments matter. They are small in appearance, but immense in what they reveal. Not dramatic, not magical, not sentimental, serious, reverent, grateful, Catholic. So the next time the final blessing is given, do not let the crowd teach you how to leave. Let the saints teach you. Let the Eucharist teach you. Let Padre Pio's recollection correct your hurry. Stay a little longer. Kneel a little more consciously. Do not cross that church door again without thanking Christ. Cross yourself like someone marked by the altar. If you want to make one small promise before God today, write in the comments, "Today I will thank Jesus before I leave."